I'm on slide 1, the introduction slide. War is hell. Many men and women have died defending this country on the battlefield. But what has happened to those that return and those that never go to the battlefield? Suicide is currently killing more members of the military than any other incidents, to include automobile accidents, training exercise mishaps, and even combat. How can we prevent suicide? Members of the military are at higher risk of suicide than the general population. I'm going to go over some details as to why I think that's the case. As a member of the military, I have seen people struggle. I've never been personally affected by a suicide. I've never had to step in to stop one because I never really saw the signs. But I have heard the suicides that occur on the base, which is usually 1 or 2 a month, it feels like. Suicide is the #1 kill in the military. How is it affecting the military, and what is the military doing to prevent it? I'm now on slide 2. So the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs released a study in 2009 that used the numbers to show how many people were committing suicide in a certain time period. So this is based between 2001 and 2007. Of the 317,581 members that deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan during that time period, 1,650 of them killed themselves. That ended up being 21.3% of the total deaths for that time period was a suicide. 964,493 people were studied that were in the military between 2001 and 2007 but never actually deployed. 7,703 of those killed themselves. That was 19.7% of the total deaths. The suicide rates are highest among junior members. I'm going to go into some details as to why I think that's the case. What is causing members to commit suicide that never deployed? What stressors do they have? Of course, deploying is stressful. There's no denying that. People have seen terrible things in wartime. But reasons I think at home they might be at risk as well is sometimes you feel isolated in the military. You leave your family. If you're married, you might have some marriage issues, financial issues. You might buy a house today, and then 2 weeks from now the military says, oh, you're going to move 500 miles west. Like, okay, now I have to sell my house. I have 6 months. I have to find a new house, move in. You have kids, dogs. That's stressful. It's very, very stressful. So I can see how that could break somebody and lead them to thinking taking their life is the best choice. I'm now on slide 3. I want to talk about mental health. When I first joined the military, mental health was a very taboo subject. I have a clearance, and I was basically told if you're depressed, don't go to mental health, just hide it because they're going to take your clearance away. It sounds silly, but having a clearance is very important when you want to get good jobs in the military. So the last thing you want to do is lose it because you felt sad someday, was the mentality. Thankfully, they finally moved away from that. So now it's more between you and your provider, and they say, as long as it's not going to affect national security, they're not going to take your clearance, they just want to help you. What is the Department of Defense doing to prevent suicide? Now on slide 4. I'm going to go over a couple of programs that are used in the military to help prevent suicide. The first one is the ACE program used by the Army. It stands for Ask, Care, Escort. So, self-explanatory. You see your buddy, he looks down, you ask him, hey, what's wrong? He says, well, I'm just feeling down because I'm not going to be home for the holidays. Now you need to care. Okay, well, how sad are you? Like, do you want to come over to my house for the holidays? Like, do you want to be alone? Can I help you? Chances are he's going to be like, no, I'm fine. But now you should move on to the escort part. Bring him to a professional. Bring him to a chaplain. Bring him to your house. Just don't let him be alone. Wingman concept. That's the Air Force program. Not just for pilots. We use it as a peer-to-peer program. I'm going to see if my buddy's having a rough time before anyone else does. It's my responsibility to have his back and protect him. The leadership is definitely emphasizing peer-to-peer support. They can't watch everybody. They don't know what's going through everyone's mind. They want everyone to watch each other's backs and look for the signs of suicide and prevent them if possible. That was slide 4. I'm now on slide 5. I want to go over the initiatives the Secretary of the Air Force released. She has 3 initiatives. Her name is Deborah Lee James. She's the current Secretary of the Air Force. But this quote, I believe, was taken in 2015. Her first initiative is to screen young airmen to identify problems they may be experiencing as they come up through the ranks or come up through the training in the Air Force. So that's the toughest time of your career is probably basic training in tech school. So we got to make sure they're good and they got through all right and not having any suicidal thoughts. No longer shun those that self-identify. I went over that in the mental health slide. That's a great idea. We're going to take care of them. They have the courage to say, hey, I'm having issues, help me. And their final initiative is to bring in experts to all the bases so they can train personnel as well as bring in their own resources and help people using their experience in their education. Why do we need to focus on our young members? That's the foundation of our Air Force. We want to make sure they're safe. They're going to be the future leaders. They're going to keep our nation safe. We want to make sure that they're good. They're going through the toughest part of the culture change. We need to make sure that they're taken care of. What can you do? Just, if you see a veteran, talk to him. Suicides don't just happen in the military as well. Just watch out for your friends. Watch out for people. If you see a veteran at McDonald's, say, hey, how's it going? And he's like, I'm all right. They're like, oh, why are you all right? Just care. Just make sure you care, and you can really change someone's day. You could save a life. The DoD is doing the best they can, but they can't do it on their own. That's what we're for. That was slide 7. I'm on slide 8. In conclusion, suicide is the #1 killer in the military. How is it affecting the military, and what can we do to prevent it? That's what we went over. First, I discussed how serious suicide is affecting the military by showing numbers and how it's killing people more than combat. It's crazy. Lastly, I discussed the steps that have been taken and continue to be taken to prevent suicide. What is the military doing? How are these programs working? Are we helping these people? War is hell. It has cost countless lives, but suicide is killing more than anything else. If you see a veteran, talk to them. Say, hey, how are you doing? And care. Help them out. Some of them are going through some rough times. Thank you.